Okay, hello and welcome.
Thank you, man. Thank you for bringing me to this beautiful part of the world.
Thank you. It's so weird. I normally sit here by myself.
I'm sorry to encroach on your territory, so to speak.
It's an honor, thanks. So run Neuner, and a lot can be said, and I think as we'll go into it, you can share a little bit about who you are and what you've achieved to date for those that maybe don't know you overseas, that are not involved in crypto. And you do a lot of things, but today's discussion is the mindset of success. What does it take to build a quality business?
Okay, very interesting.
Okay.
Going to be a fun discussion, I think.
Thank you. So the first question is, and my name is Kaimowitz. I have a business called Virtual Actuary, and that's all I do at the moment. I used to do a lot back in the day, a lot of different things, but none of them worked properly, so I decided to rather just focus. Okay. So the first question is, what makes you unstoppable? What is the secret to your success?
I think that's a very broad question, and I think you've got to look at success relative. And whereas I believe that I have achieved relative success in South Africa, when they put me in a worldwide stadium, I don't know if the success is as big. Here we're swimming in a very small pond, and there when you arrive there, it's you're swimming in a very big pond and you're a very, very small fish. So success is relative. But I think success is, like you said, it's about a mindset. So, you love kite surfing. I saw that you live on the kite surfing beach. The way I see business for me is business is a sport, and it's the most fun sport that I can ever play, and I'm an athlete. And so for me, if you say to me, would I rather be lying on a beach or surfing on a kite surfing or riding horses or driving fast cars? No, where I get my adrenaline rush is building businesses and putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And that I'm obsessed with it. I've been obsessed with it since I was 3 years old. And so for me, that's kind of like where my headspace is at. So I don't see it as success as much as you don't see kite surfing as success. You just see it as something that you really, really enjoy doing. And that's, for me, what business does. It's the thing that I really enjoy most in the world. So yeah, I'm an athlete. I'm getting better and better at my game. Great that business, as you get slightly older, it actually works to your advantage as opposed to against you, because I think I have a good mix right now of energy and experience. Whereas in the past, I probably had just raw energy and no experience. Now I've got energy and experience. Over time, you lose energy, but you gain experience, and you got to keep balancing those two to try and optimize your sports playing, which in this case is business.
Very nice. There's so much I can say and so many questions I can throw in there, but I want to stay focused on the important questions. One of the questions that popped in my mind, we're not going to answer it now, is what happens when you get knocked as a sportsman? You jumping over that hurdle and you tripped, digging deep, there's that moment of, I'm not losing this race.
I think that the winner is not the person who doesn't take a knock. It's the winner who actually learns to take, because you're going to take knocks. I have a great analogy. When you work in a corporate, it's like working in a built-up suburb. There's roads, there's road signs, where the stop streets are, where the yield signs are, and you drive. When you're an entrepreneur, what you're doing is you're walking into a forest. It's pitch black, and there's trees, and there's roots everywhere. And your role as an entrepreneur is to keep chopping down the trees and to keep chopping down and to actually build the roads so that other people can actually work in your city or in your suburb. Now, as an entrepreneur, 9 out of 10 times you're going to knock your head against a tree. And the winner is actually not the person who can carve the roads the quickest, but the person who knows how to get up and keep fighting. So as an entrepreneur, you kind of say, look, I've bought into this thing of being knocked down every day, all day. But the best people are the ones that are actually going to be able to get up and carry on fighting again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, success, beautiful. Success breeds success. Okay?
Momentum.
Absolutely. But tell me about a time when you were holding on by a thread, or when something didn't go your way.
Yeah, so like I say, I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, what I've managed to do is to really learn how to deal with these failures. And there's nothing more unstoppable than momentum. You mentioned success breeds success. What every business person and entrepreneur in the world actually should be aiming for is to start the growth of the snowball, to get the momentum. Often what happens is when you start something, you feel like you're doing and there's no results. And then you get to a point where all of a sudden results start to happen. That's not coincidental. What's happened is you've mined. And eventually all your hard work of mining, even though at the time it was kind of like thankless, it starts to turn. When that happens, you start to build momentum. And momentum is the most dangerous. I hate going up against opponents who have momentum, because inevitably you're going to lose. Nothing beats momentum, not skill, not money, not nothing. Nothing beats momentum, and it actually culminates in this thing called the network effect.
Oh yeah.
And I explained to you why I say momentum is actually the most powerful thing in the whole world. So if you take the biggest and most successful companies in the world today, what are they? Who are the best companies today in the world? List them.
Amazon,
Facebook,
Google, yeah, the ones
Uber,
that are making the most money,
Uber,
are the ones that have the most power.
YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp. Why? So the first answer as to why are those the most successful companies in the world and not anybody else? The first answer is obviously quite obvious. It's tech. They all have tech. Okay, but that's actually not why those are the most valuable companies in the world. Ironically, why those are the most valuable companies in the world is because those companies all have one thing called the network effect. I'll explain to you very simply what the network effect is. The reason why most people use Google today is because Google is the best search engine. Why? It's the quickest and gives you the best results. The reason why it gives you the best results and it's the quickest is because more people are searching on it. And so what happens is the more people that search, the better the results. The better the results, the more people that search. The more people that search, the better the results. The reason why Uber is the best ride-hailing app in the world today is because you press the button and the driver comes. The more people that press the button, the more drivers can be employed. The more drivers that can be employed, the more people that use the app.
Yeah.
I'll give another example, which I think is the best example. WhatsApp is a terrible chat, but WeChat came to South Africa. WeChat is a much better chat app.
They pushed hard, yeah.
And they pushed hard and they couldn't penetrate South Africa. Why? Because the more people use WhatsApp, the more network effect WhatsApp has, the more people use WhatsApp. All the biggest and best companies in the world have the network effect. Once a company has the network effect, it's the ultimate momentum. You can never stop those companies. In fact, studies show there's only two ways that you can stop that kind of momentum. One is government intervention. And as you can see today, governments are starting to say, look, we're going to break up Google, we're going to break up Facebook. The other one is if you can launch a product that is 10 times better. Then they say 10 times is the border at which consumers will switch. So let's go back to it. What you're aiming to do as a business person or as an entrepreneur is you're trying inevitably to get momentum, because momentum will carry you through.
Yes.
And momentum is something that builds over time. See it like a snowball. It starts off very small and it rolls and it rolls and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you may not see it getting bigger, but that's what you're going for. And at some point, if you're making the right moves and doing the right things, you'll get that momentum.
Beautiful. Very nice. Okay. So, what do you think about backseat drivers?
Hate them. Yeah.
You know, because, when it comes to starting a business, when it comes to doing anything that can have a chance at getting momentum and network effect, it's actually about the person who got up and did something and made those phone calls, and even though it wasn't glamorous and even though there was no network effect, they were making those phone calls and people told them to get lost, and then they carried on making the phone calls and people told them to get lost. And what you'll generally find is that the backseat drivers are, it's not that nice.
There's a lot of opinions out there. Everyone has an opinion. And it's easy to give opinion. It's easy. I can give you advice. Today, I'm not really invested. You may follow my advice, you may not. If my advice works, great. If it doesn't work, you don't really care. I don't really care. What I found regarding entrepreneurs is...
And beating backseat drivers.
Yeah. So what I found working with the best entrepreneurs in the world, or trying to work with the best entrepreneurs in the world, is it's often not the smartest guy, or the most well-funded guy, or the guy with the best product that succeeds. The guy or girl that succeeds very often is the one that almost foolishly doesn't see their own limitations and is completely obsessed with the direction and doesn't see any of the barriers in the way, regardless of whether they're right or wrong. And the grit and the determination is much more than the product or the funding. There's another saying that someone mentioned to me the other day, and it said, doubt killed more dreams than failure ever will. And what I find is that the entrepreneurs that are successful are the ones that are so determined and foolishly can't see their own, to me, foolishly can't see their own limitations. And I say to me, but actually when I look back at when I started my business, I was foolish. Had I known then what I should have known and had I bothered to do the research, I would have backed out. I would have backed out.
For sure.
But I didn't, because I was foolish and I had too much energy and not enough knowledge and not enough experience, and I channeled that energy and that tenacity, if you want to call it that, this extreme, ridiculous tenacity.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what makes it.
Yeah, definitely that naivety of like how difficult it's going to be to achieve that.
I like naivety. It's naivety.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like that is why partners at consultancies, you know, we have actuaries that consult. That's our business, and what you'll often find is that partners, the seniors at the other consultancies, they don't break away from the big firms and form their own like really chunky businesses because they know how difficult it is to actually build and run a business like that. You've got to be foolish. Yeah. So we didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't come from that background, so and we built up a business.
That's why you're building a business. I think analysis paralysis. If you look for reasons not to do something,
definitely
you'll find them. I always say that the most important characteristic or element in the entire entrepreneurial journey is not what you think it is. Like I said, it's not product, it's not money, it's not. What it is desperation. It's you know. There's this J curve that everyone talks about in the entrepreneurial journey, which is, you know, you start off and then you go down, 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 down.
You start hitting the first credit card limit, the second credit card limit, the third. I had 4.
And the thing is,
they're all maxed out.
What happens is, it's quite interesting because actually the longer you can go down for, the more of your potential competitors you're losing along the way. Because not many people can have the grit and the determination to ride the thing all the way down. But then inevitably there's like the turning point. So now you ask yourself, what actually is that turning point? Why do businesses actually turn? 9 out of 10 times what I find is the reason why businesses are turning is that is the point where the entrepreneur is getting desperate. So what happens is you go down, 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 and then you get to a point where you actually really can't go down anymore. You get to a point of desperation. You say, look, it may not be optimal, but I have to now make this move to get myself out of. I can't keep increasing the credit card debts. I'm not going to do what I wanted to do, but I'm going to do something.
Yes.
And that's the point of desperation.
Beautiful.
Now that point of extreme desperation, for me, is the most important element that an entrepreneur has to have. So ironically, people that I back, I find that if they come from money, wealth, spoiled backgrounds,
they can't handle when things fall apart.
You can't do it. I can't back them. I know I'm going to lose money because they're too comfortable. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for the guy who's just about to go broke. Or if he's not about to go broke, the guy that fears failure so much in his mind that you kind of know that he'd break down walls to break away from failure.
Sure.
That's the guy I'm looking for.
Sure. Beautiful. I love it. So I'm not going to ask the question, but one of my questions was, what is grit? But we'll break that down later. And okay, I'm just going to read them because I wrote them at the time. So please tell me why it is a marathon and not a sprint. Okay.
Interesting question. What are you chasing? Ultimately, you got to think to yourself, what, in this whole game of business, what is the prize? What are you chasing? Now, if you're chasing a monetary limit, a monetary thing that I want to make R1 billion, that's quite an empty dream, because when you make R1 billion, it's not enough. It's not about the money. What you realize inevitably is that you're on a journey, and that in the journey you'll find a lot of meaning. And when you find that meaning, you know, you enjoy kite surfing because you enjoy every day when you go out into the water. You enjoy every minute of every day, falling, getting up, doing new tricks. There's no end goal for you. And I think that's the mindset that you got to take as well when it comes to business. I spend 16 to 18 hours a day in my business. Maybe not working in front of a computer, but thinking about that's what I think about all day long. That and my family, I'm obsessed, and then sometimes I sleep as well. I try and get some sleep, but that's really what I do all the time. So find something that you really love every day, and when that happens, then as you can see with me, like there's nothing more interesting than I'd rather be doing at the moment.
Definitely. Like so what my interpretation as well, to add to that about the marathon, is when it comes to kite surfing, or I also just bought a motorbike recently off-road, is that I have to take a 5-year approach.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, do I want to be interacting with this client? Do I want to launch?
Do you have a goal in mind with kite surfing? You don't. The goal is you want to get on the water and you want to have fun. And every minute that you do it, you get this rush, and it's amazing. But you're not chasing. You're not chasing a medal.
No.
And that's exactly the same mindset around the marathon. You're spending 20 hours a day thinking. I even dream about business sometimes. You're spending 20 hours a day thinking, dreaming about business. Make sure you enjoy it. And let me say something else. It's not for everyone. Not everyone likes kite surfing. Not everyone likes business. Some people prefer art. Some people prefer music. And they prefer doing it without the financial reward. And therefore, it's not for everyone. But for those people who want to play in the Premier League of business,
yes,
these are the people that I relate to and I work with. And I respect that it's not for everyone. Not everyone's a business person. And
sure.
We shouldn't try and fit everyone into the same mold.
Sure. You know, people only see the lovely. They only see when it goes, or what they don't see is your spouse screaming at you because you can't afford nappies.
Yeah.
They don't see that part, and that happens a lot.
You know, interestingly enough, my father is an absolute role model to me in my life in many ways. But he's the extreme opposite of me. He's an engineer. I'm very unstructured. He's very much the structured engineer. He worked for a company from the age of 25, the same company until probably 50 or 60 or whatever. He then eventually got the guts to change to a different company. And at the age of, don't quote me on the age, but close to his 60s, he saw me in an entrepreneurial journey, and he loved what he was seeing, and he became an entrepreneur at the age of 60 or 55. I don't know, don't quote me on the age, but 60, because I was actually retirement age. And I remember back then, you got a father of 5 boys, living a relatively okay lifestyle, nothing lavish, and then takes 2 years to try and become an entrepreneur, not knowing what he's going to do, evaluating multiple things, and he's heading towards retirement. And I remember for the first time in my life that there was real tension in our home, which we came from, thank God, a very beautiful, close home with little tension. And at the age of 60, my mom and dad started fighting about money, about the stress of not having money. And I actually remember the one point where my dad got to the point of extreme desperation, and he turned it. Even like an 18-year-old entrepreneur, he got to the point where I guess he was balancing a comfortable retirement against a carrying on his entrepreneurial journey. He got that point of desperation, and he turned it, and he built a huge, gargantuous, successful book publishing business, which is still running today. It just kind of goes to show that it's not about time, it's about a mindset, and it's about, it's a playbook. Entrepreneurship is a playbook.
So, what's interesting is, when it comes to the academic, like I try not to listen to podcasts about business and motivators, because honestly I don't want them to cloud, like I'm writing this book and I'm almost finished, and like I don't want the ideas like, oh, that's a great idea, like, and then, oh no, I can't stop thinking about it, and so, but what's interesting is if I listen to them and they start academically going into the business and marketing and this and theory, I'm like, it's like I feel like I'm sitting at university again. I'm not absorbing anything. But if you say to me, here's a client, this is the problem, this is who we're dealing with, this is what we need to do, I'll work it out because it's there, it's right now, it's physical, and I'll get it right. But when it comes to like that hardcore like theory,
yeah, I mean, I guess there are rules. Most rules you should play by because the rules are there because they've been tested. But some rules, actually, there's a good reward for breaking. So I guess the real mavericks are the ones that know which rules to follow and then which rules to try and break, you know, in the nicest sense of the word, to try and understand. Don't try, you know, if someone says to you, for example, a subscription business is valued at much higher than a non-subscription based business, you know, so selling once off versus selling monthly subscription.
What they like, they call it their sticky revenue.
That's a rule. Don't try and buck the rules and build a business out of a non-subscription, but there are times where you should challenge things, you know, but do it logically and play within the rules.
So actually that brings me to another question. So I love what you've said, and I want to talk about that. So of course we want that sticky revenue, we want that subscription business, but let's talk about the difference between a brick and mortar business, which is one by one, and then trying to automate things finding shortcuts.
I can't relate to bricks and mortar.
Because the concept of it's like in Tanya, it's also they talk about the short long way. So you think it's the short way, oh, we're going to automate something, we're going to come up, and then it's the long short.
Let me make this a very simple discussion for you.
Okay.
The business that most people would know me for is a business called Creative Counsel.
Yes.
Creative Counsel was the biggest agency group in South Africa. It took me 17 years to start, build, and sell it. And it was a big business in relative terms, but it was the most linear bricks and mortar business you could ever imagine. In essence, we used to place people in supermarkets doing tastings. I mean, there was a lot more to it, but ultimately, the more people you placed, the more staff you needed to train and blah, blah, blah. We didn't automate the business, it wasn't a platform. It took me 17 years to build a R1 billion business. Not bad, but if I were put in the same playing field today, I could probably do it in 2 or 3. Why? Because my mindset has changed. I took myself on a journey to learn about exponential businesses. Okay, I fundamentally forced myself to learn the difference between an Airbnb and an Uber versus an ad agency or a supermarket chain. Airbnb and Uber, when they go from 1 million to 2 million to 100 million to 50 billion customers, makes no difference to them because it's the same piece of software.
Yes.
You want to serve more people in a supermarket, you've got to open more stores, you need more trucks and more logistics. Clearly, there is a need for both. The need for non-platform, non-exponential businesses started to do that. If you notice with COVID, what happened?
No, they dropped out.
They dropped out.
Yeah.
And who succeeded? The platforms, the ones that that could scale without needing to invest in further infrastructure or bricks and mortar businesses. And so for me, look, there is a space for both. I have just reprogrammed my mind that I don't understand linear businesses.
So that's as an investor, I get it, because that's like that's the sweet spot as a builder. But let's say you're somebody now. I'm trying to inspire people to stop thinking too much about creating something that's gonna take off and spend 2 months, 3 months sitting about automating and the app and how it's gonna work, and rather just take a moment and just get one customer today. And then when you've got 5 or 6 customers and you've got a bit of money coming in, then you can go into how can we automate what we've built.
You're touching on very different things. And I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to mix them into the same bowl. And it's actually not the same bowl.
Okay.
So let's look at the different facets. There is a guy that's in a job, and I call those the closet entrepreneurs. Okay, they're in the closet. Because he's in a full-time job and you're asking, what are you doing? And he says, I'm an entrepreneur. But where do you work? I work for Standard Bank. Okay, now I call that a closet entrepreneur because you're in the closet. And you're not an entrepreneur until you come out the closet. Okay, you've got to get out.
And you have no funding.
So there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are working at Standard Bank.
The backseat drivers.
Yeah. The one day I'll be an entrepreneur. You're not bullshit. You're never going to do it because as time progresses, responsibilities progress. As we get older, we get more kids, we have more
And
financial.
even then, even if you're running a unit within that is an innovation unit, still not the same thing.
Different discussion.
Yes, carry on. Okay.
So, completely different discussion. If you're an entrepreneur, quit your job today, get desperate. Don't quit your job when you have something else, because you're not going to have something else because you need to be desperate. So you quit your job today and you become an entrepreneur. And for me, like, again, I say it's not for everyone, but if you're an entrepreneur, the sooner the better, because the older you get, the more responsibilities you get, the harder it becomes, and then most people never ever leave their jobs and they live the rest of their lives working for someone.
Sure.
Yeah. Listen, for some people it's okay to trade a monthly salary for big dreams, because it just, that trade-off works for them. For me, it doesn't work. Now, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're then faced with two options in your life. You can be an entrepreneur to run a linear business, and let's go back to Kite. You can open the Kite shop here. You're still an entrepreneur. You probably have a great business, there's a great big community here, and you can serve them. Or then there's the ultra entrepreneur who can't think about running one shop, and he actually builds the app where everyone subscribes to get all the kite reading conditions around the world, and it's all crowdsourced and whatever else. And that's a platform. And so those are there's space for both. The world needs both. The ones that, I went through the first one where I went through the linear journey, and now I'm much more on this, like, listen, if we're going to talk about kiting, I want to own the app. Sure. And I want to monetize the community, and I want it to grow into billions of people, and I just want to sit back and watch the numbers go up on the screen. The guy who's running the kite shop, he knows that he starts his month off with 0 sales, and he's going to sell, and they're different people. It's a different mindset.
Yeah. So I don't want to hover too much on it, but what I've tried to do as virtual actuary is, we're a business of actuaries. We're not just a consultancy. Consultancy sells hours, and an actuary business develops insurtech, fintech, and all that kind of stuff. So it's more automated. It's the software that consultancies and business.
The test is very simple. If you go on holiday now for 3 months.
Oh no, we're screwed. No, we're screwed. So, but we've got momentum now. So now we've got the money.
But then you're running the kite shop.
For now, yes.
Yes.
But there's money coming in.
Great.
For now.
Great.
So now we're at that point where now that we want to automate more, we can afford to.
Yeah.
See, it's different.
I guess it comes down to your vision. For me,
the marathon, yeah.
For me, and it's a function of where I've been and the experience that I've got. I can't go back to a business which is not a platform and is not global. So I don't know how your business works, but if you can't launch your business tomorrow in the USA using the same app and the same technology, then what you're running is you're running a kite shop.
For now. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, yeah. and we want to automate, and we are in the process of automating. But what often happens with entrepreneurs is they want to automate, but then they feel that in order to be able to develop for the next year, they need an investor. And then someone gives them the money, and then they give them 50% of the equity.
Ultimately, it's around a mindset and where you set your objectives. If you are serious about, and again, it's not for everyone. Like, maybe this is a great business and you're making lots of money and you're growing, and that's great for you. And for me, is it Uber? Is it Airbnb? Is it one touch? Can I grow? Can I use the same technology around the world? Is it automated? Is it a platform? If it is, I'm interested in it. If not, to be honest, not for me.
Fair as an investor, fair enough,
As an investor, even the things that I would spend my time on, I don't want to spend my time on anything that's not a platform. Because again, it's a personal thing. The world needs both. The world needs flies, bees, and wasps. You know what I mean? The world needs everything. So it just depends which compartment you're going to be in, and not every compartment is for everyone.
I love it. I think we can talk about this for a very long time. Okay. Please tell me a little bit about not having a handout mentality.
It's an interesting question. You've got kids, right?
Yeah.
How many kids have you got?
2, 4-year-old almost, and a 1-year-old.
I'm gonna answer your question by throwing a question at you. I kind of think, because I know a little bit about your background, that I think I might know the answer, but let's see if I get it right. Under the assumption that you make R1 billion, significant money, how much are you going to leave to your kids?
I'd probably leave them as much as I can, but I would make them like actually earn it, like actually know how to make the money. Like there would be a safety net, but I would definitely make them earn it. I wouldn't just hand it to them.
Okay, so that possibly was my answer, but I've changed my entire view. I have a little bit of money. I don't have a lot of money. I have a little bit of money relative to world terms. Maybe in South Africa I'm slightly above average, but I have a little bit of money. And whilst my kids are with me, they will live my lifestyle, because I'm not going to downgrade my lifestyle to make them suffer. But I'm not leaving them with anything, because that's how I grew up. And because I think that one of the biggest things that I have working for me is this hunger and this fire that I have to succeed. And that is the most fun that I have in my day, is harnessing that power, fear of failure, plus ambition to take over the world.
Sure.
Now, every person that I know that comes from a trust fund family, live in the shadow of their fathers, sure, or their mothers, or whatever, whoever the trust fund comes from. B, seem to lack that hunger because they always know they've got a safety net. And I find that those people are almost, they're comfortable, and as a result of the comfort, you find that they have all these comforts, but you find that they lack that little bit of spice that actually makes life beautiful, or certainly for me makes life beautiful. So I changed my whole thing. At one point I thought, I'm going to be this father that leaves his kids with everything. I'll make sure they'll never be hungry, I hope. I'll make sure that they get a reasonable education. If they want Ivy League, great, but then they must work for it. And then I'm going to spend all my money myself, and I'm going to die in debt, and they must pay for it.
Sure.
And that's just how I see the world.
Beautiful. I love it. I don't want to go too far past the half an hour, so let me see if I can string together one more question. And I guess here we go. So I've got here, you cannot hesitate to be brave for the future. Being brave is about like, we've done this thing, and I know I need to go to America. I don't know anybody there. Like I have to leave my comfort zone. I need to be brave so I can have a better future. So just tell me a little bit about you and why you are brave, because you want a better future. Because building something decent, it's not easy.
So it comes down to, again, what drives you. What's your objective in life? What drives you? I love adventure. For me, I set goals, but the goals are actually more to enjoy the adventure. So you asked, let's talk specifically about America. Why? Because I've done South Africa, and you live once, and ultimately you can plot the path for your life. I'm in the blessed position that I could take one or two chances in my life, and so I do, and I will, and I enjoy the adventure. And I may fail and I may succeed, but ultimately that is the path that I've chosen. When you ride a roller coaster in a fun fair, the trick about a roller coaster is to enjoy the fast part, and then to enjoy the slow part also, to enjoy the down and to enjoy the up. They say if you want to get the most out of life, the idea is not to feel happiness, but to feel everything. And so the idea is, you got to go on that journey and say, you live once, and you got to maximize. And again, not for everyone. I'm a risk taker. I love that shit. But you got to go the ups and downs, and enjoy the ups and the downs. And if you fail, take pride in picking yourself up and doing yourself again. Listen, truth be told, I went to America now. I spent 2 years or 18 months in America now. I was humbled, man. I mean, yeah, I'm king of the world, and I was the smallest fish, and always the poorest guy in the room. Couldn't go on holiday with my mates because just the numbers that they were talking are ridiculous. In business, didn't know the rules of the game. I was humbled. At the time, I went through it was black, man. I can't explain to you. I went through nights where I was like, why the hell am I doing this? Like, I could go to Cape Town, I could live the best life, I could look at the mountain all day. Why am I putting myself through this? But then like you zoom out and you go like, how blessed am I that I can actually try this shit and fail and succeed and fail and succeed. And again, I think that the trick to life is not to feel happiness, but to feel everything, because then you get perspective. Sadness, loneliness, emptiness, happiness. And that's when you get the most sensation out of life. And life is a combination of experiences. Actually, at the end of the day, when you're sitting on the last day and you say like, did I have a great life? All you're going to do is count your experiences and count the relationships and the people that you have around you. That's it.
Yeah. Sometimes the tough experiences, like in hindsight, looking back, sure, they're nice, So I'll say one.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You've been through some pretty tough times getting to where you've got to.
Yes.
How great is that feeling? At the time when you were going through a bad time, you look at it now and you go, that was the blackest day of my life. I actually, when I start thinking about some of these, I start getting that anxiety.
Yeah.
And now you look back and you go, geez, how good was I to overcome it?
Yeah, so this is exactly what I wanted to say now. So one of the reasons why I kite and also why I bought a bike is because of this. I want to force myself to make overcoming fear a habit. Because then I will achieve more success. So it's like with the kiting where it's blowing 35 knots and you can't, you're rolling, you're doing your lines and you're pumping up your kite on the beach and you can't see. There's so much wind and sand. And you know that as soon as you take a jump, it's going to be aggressive, it's going to be tricky, it's going to be tough. And the waves are big as well. And you're actually scared. You're scared. I always say a prayer before I leave the house, always. And then you're scared, it's dangerous. And then you go out. And then there's that moment where you're doing okay and you're handling and you start to acclimatize yourself to the environment of the chaos.
Yes.
You overcome it.
And then you're ready for the next challenge.
Yeah. So you come back onto the beach and you realize you've done it. You've overcome it. And that's when that satisfaction that you're now talking about kicks in. That like...
So I'm all okay with the kiting. I'm a bit more nervous about the biking because if you do make the mistake on the bike,
yes,
there are big implications. I used to fly helicopters, and I think I didn't actually think about it before, but now what you're describing is I think one of the things that why I flew helicopters was to prove to myself that I could fly.
Yes.
And I actually, funny enough, when my first son was born, I stopped flying, and the reason was I just thought, Daddy's pushing the limits. But one day, if daddy pushes one extra limit, then you may not have a daddy. Then that's not, the trade-off is not worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
So when my daughter was born, I stopped kite looping or trying to kite loop.
What's looping?
So looping is like you can jump. It's kind of like BMX. You jump, but some guys do backflips in the air. Okay. So the kite looping is the same. You can jump and float with the kite, or you can jump and at the top of the kite you yank the kite, and the kite does a corkscrew in there, and you loop the kite. You mega loop the kite. It's significantly more dangerous. And I crashed and actually got knocked out, face down.
In the water?
In the water, face down.
Yeah, you see, that's all fun and games until you think of your daughter without a daddy, and then everything changes.
Yeah, so I decided daddy does it for the fun.
Yeah.
Daddy doesn't kite loop anymore, and I stopped kite looping.
That's exactly
there and then. So daddy just does it for the fun. So it's that controlled chaos. But I don't take it to that limit. So that's it. I mean, I think it's always fascinating when one tries to understand.
You see, I think what we need to try and understand is that entrepreneurs are risk takers. They listen to our conversation outside of business. We're talking about how many risks we've taken. You did kites, you're going to bike. I was helicopter flying. It's a special breed of people. It's people that want to take risks. And again, the caution is that it's not for everyone. Like a lot of people, they want to carry the medal of saying I was an entrepreneur and I started a business, but it's actually not for them. Like, the world needs bees, wasps, and flies.
Yeah. When I bought this bike the other day, only like 2 months ago, and I went there for the first time, like with the gear and the helmet, and I bought this bike. I don't know anything about off-road bikes. Like the last time I rode, I was like 10 years old. I'm 42 now. So there I am. I'm on this bike now. It's revving. It's on, and I'm just about to go onto the track. It was like a Tuesday or whatever. Track was empty. I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing? Like, I don't know if I'm even going to get up those ramps. What happens if I fall backwards? I was petrified, like, what am I doing? And I just think that the take home for anybody watching this is, if you are not constantly saying to yourself, what the hell am I doing? Then you're not doing enough.
You see, I agree with you, but that is a certain mindset. What you got to remember is that not everyone. You're describing the mindset of my mindset and your mindset. Our mindset is we always want to push the limits. We always want to break the rules. We want to see how far we can push things, and that's how we determine our success. Is how we gather our success. But there are people that it's not for them. I don't know your wife, but I can tell you for my wife, like that for her is hell. She balances me. For her, why must we push things? Like, let's be comfortable. So it's, an environment needs all the players. We are sitting here, we're the big risk takers. I mean, you sound like you're a much bigger risk taker than I am, and it probably will pay dividends at some point, if it's not paying dividends already. But it's a very special kind of person if you want to be an entrepreneur. And like I always say to people, you may think that you want to be an entrepreneur, but think long and hard about what that actually means. And can you go down the J curve? And can you carry, when I had Creative Counsel, and at one point Creative Counsel had 1,500 people working for it, and we used to place about 30,000 people in work on an average weekend. I was a kid, man. I was 30 years old. I had the weight of 1,500 people on my shoulders. And there were some times in business where I didn't actually verbalize it as much then, and I probably should have, but you're 30. You don't know anything. You're responsible for 1,500 people's lives. They have kids. They have their husband, their mummy. They have kids. If you make a stupid mistake and you end it, you don't end it for you. You end it for 1,500 people and their kids. That's a lot of weight for a 30-year-old to carry on his shoulder. And that's why I say for entrepreneurs, it's like, do you want it, or do you just want the badge that said, hey, I did something amazing? And I always say that being an entrepreneur is like, what people see is they see when you summit on the mountain. What they don't see is how hard the climb up was to get up the mountain. And they see you at the peaks only. When you get into the press, or when you win an award or whatever. They don't see what you went through every single day.
No, that you lost some toes.
Yeah, no one sees that shit. All they see is the front cover of the magazine. And then everyone says, gee, it's so glamorous, I want to be an entrepreneur. I think it's the same with being a musician, a successful musician, or a successful football player. Sure. You see a Ronaldo and a Messi scoring goals. You don't see it from the age of 14 every single day, what these people went through, dieting, Can you do that? We can't do that. No. It's not for everyone, but if you do think it's for you, sooner is better.
Very nice. We'll end it with that, and thanks for taking the time to share some insight and thoughts. This has been very nice.
Thank you, man. Thank you for bringing me out to this beautiful part of the world.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Nice to see you.